Kelly Guo, who is a strategist and associate at Gensler in the Gensler's Tokyo office. And we have Dr. Chaiwat Rila Tanafong. I'm sorry if I pronounce your name in a weird way. I'm sorry. So he is a assistant professor, and I'll introduce more details later when at the beginning of each panelist talk. And then we also have Daibing Xie, who's from a consultant from China. All of the panelists are focusing on workplace, but from different angle, have different sort of topics for their research and practice. So without further ado, the setting, the format of this panel will be each panelist will make a presentation. And after that, I have a couple of questions, and then we'll try to have a dialogue among us. So the first panelist I'd like to introduce to talk is Kelly Guo. She's a strategist, as I said, mentioned before, she's a strategist and associate at Gensler, who focuses on translating business goals of organizations into design. She has a background in design and environmental analysis and performing arts from Cornell University. She's actually from my department. And she's a very, we're very proud what she is able to achieve in the few years after she graduated. Kelly has worked in multiple practice areas, including retail, hospitality, and aviation, but with a focus on workplace. She works closely with global and domestic companies in Japan from the initial research and envisioning phases to experience strategy and change management. Her clients span multiple industries, including financial service companies to technology and consulting. So, and this year, her work was centered around the speculative future for a post-COVID workplace. So, Kelly, welcome, and now, you have the floor.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I have a bit of a kind of bunch of pages that I spliced together. So let's see if this works. Let me know if you can see.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. So lots of pages, but I promise they're full of images, so we'll go through very, very quickly. So hi, I'm Kelly. I work at an American design firm called Gensler in the Tokyo office. And today I can talk a little bit about kind of the future of work and what's going on the ground in Japan. And so I'll touch upon kind of what the research that we're doing in terms of, Gensler and the workplace survey, as well as a little bit of the conversations that we're having with our clients here in Japan around kind of the future of and how we need a workplace with purpose. And so a little bit about Gensler's workplace surveys. And so since 2005, Gensler has kind of conducted surveys across different countries, and we're able to kind of benchmark these and to see, what the workplace performance index is. And this is really what we do pre-occupancy and post-occupancy to see what can inform design, but also kind of gather the user perception and see if that has actually changed over time. So, maybe, many of you who are on the call right now are interested in Japanese culture or have even traveled here. And I just want to set the stage a little bit and say, from a visitor's point of view, this is sort of a country with amazing hospitality, delicious food, and unparalleled customer service. I know Ying has been here many, many times. The workplace, however, is a little bit notorious for having a very severe work culture. And so that is very well reflected in our findings because Japan, in many ways, out of all the surveys that we've done, it has had consistently the lowest scores in the developed markets. And so when we're looking at this, there's a lot of background that goes into this, right? Whether it's historical, the way that the economy has grown post-war, the management styles of a lot of companies still equate performance with physical attendance. So people work really late in this country, as well as some societal issues like the aging population and gender inequality in the workplace. But when we're talking about environment, what we're really talking about is Japan not having enough different types of spaces to support the complexity of the work that is done today, and as well as the number of amenities and the number of right amenities in the workplace. And so there's a consensus around, we need to change, right? But because right now the environment definitely doesn't support these business needs. However, humans are creatures of habit, and so generally are very resistant to change. And so this was something that we were struggling very hard with to get our clients to buy in. And then COVID happened, right? And a lot of interesting things actually came out of this. And since we have a little bit of an international crowd tonight, I like to show the slide because Asia has a little bit of an accelerated timeline. I was on the phone with our coworkers in the Shanghai office back in June, and Japan had just gone into lockdown, and our Shanghai folks actually said that they had come out of lockdown. And so really because of the timeline, a lot of people are actually asking and looking to Asia for future insights into the future of workplace. And so what we actually did was we conducted a work from home survey, just to kind of get a pulse. And this is also kind of going out to different countries. I just took a peek at the UK results yesterday. But one thing to note here, like I mentioned, with Japan's workplace, many companies prior to COVID did not have a mobility strategy. They did not necessarily allow their workers to work from home. And sort of as expected, the moment that you give people more choices, you see the pendulum swing all the way to the opposite side. And there was an overwhelming number of responses. 82% of Japanese workers would prefer a hybrid model. They want to work from home. They expect to work from home actually post-COVID. And this is much higher than, in this case, we're comparing with the US, which is 52% of US workers. And so what we're really finding here is that there's an expectation now moving forward that we need to have a hybrid workplace where people are able to choose how much time they spend in the office versus from home. So what have we learned? There's this famous principle, in design that says form follows function, right? We want to create the spaces, the products, the services that we need. And now we think that that's being challenged actually. And it's moving more towards form following purpose. And so we're having conversations around, why are we working? Why is there an office? Why is a workplace need to have purpose, and not just how we are working, how we can make things more efficient. So what does a workplace with purpose look like? I think a lot of you on the call are probably more well educated about the history of workplace than I am. But to put it simply, if you think about kind of where the modern workplace started as a very task-oriented, think Peter Drucker, classic workplace management, and then it moved more into a hyper-collaborative setting with the rise of the digital era, the open office. We talked about ABW, amenity, activity-based working, and now a lot of amenity planning. And now we're really shifting towards purpose-driven. And one of the things is we're no longer tethered to one space. And so as our work becomes more complex, people have different, business needs. And it's also means that we need to support a different range of employee lifestyles. And so a lot of the speculative work that we're talking about happens sort of, I'll show some of these slides now. No longer the typical 9 to 6. We work until 6 in Japan. The future workplace can happen anytime, anywhere. What we're hearing is, before it was about work-life balance, and now we're hearing a lot of work-life integration. And I know maybe a lot of people find this very scary, for better or for worse, but, this is already happening. I think a lot of us, who are on this call are very guilty of answering emails after business hours, right? And so instead of separating the home versus the office, our perspective is really don't make them enemies, and if you can really work from anywhere, then let's create the best experiences no matter where we go. And this is the time to really borrow lessons from hospitality and retail and industries that are much more guest experience focused and try to apply them to workplace design. one more thing that, one more shift that we're seeing is having the workplace become more distributed. And so previously the workplace is seen as this very private entity. You need, only special people can kind of get in and get out. And while there's still that same level of security, what we're seeing, it's flowing more into the community. And in Tokyo, what we're really saying is the workplace is the city. And so this is sort of the metaphor that we kind of have created. There's many different schools of thought on this. Some of them are more kind of home centric, and what we're saying here is really this is a metaphor for like the solar system, where the greater work ecosystem revolves around the center office, but in reality you also have your home, and these are kind of little planet destinations. And so I'll kind of go into this more in detail. And so, the biggest question my clients always ask me recently is, do we really need an office? And so I always respond, from a real estate perspective, you can downsize, right? You can get rid of all the spaces that you wanted to get rid of already. And I think that is kind of the tactical side. But I think on a deeper note is really the question is, what does the office become, right? Now that it's not as, task oriented. And so what we're really thinking about is the office is like the sun. And it's a critical anchor, but it needs to become a special destination. And so instead of trying to house employees, really get people to actually have intrinsic motivation to go to the office. And so I think of, if you live in a very cold place, or colder place like New York City or London that doesn't always have nice weather, when the sun's out, everyone is outside socializing, and everyone is outside trying to just bathe in the sun. And that's the kind of experience that we want to recreate. So the office now becomes a source of physical engagement. And this also is reflected in our work from home survey, where the top 5 reasons why people want to be in the office all have to do with communication. So there's something about face-to-face and being able to kind of connect with others that is still irreplaceable. And so what we're suggesting with clients is this idea of the office as a social hub, right? Of course, you need that seamless integration between the virtual and the physical to make sure that people can still have meetings, whether they're in or out of the office. But what we're really trying to push now is, with the rise of a lot of, entertainment and learning becoming more gamified, we need to actually think about making the workplace a fun place. And this is a little controversial in Japan, right? And so that's something that we're trying to kind of get our clients behind. When we think about our homes, like individual planets, and so they can. We basically have proven that we can work from home. These planets can exist independently, but there's also things around in our orbit that we can also make use of, such as going on workations or cafes and co-working spaces. And so this is, really making sure that the setup is able to support the kinds of needs that you would need working from home. So home as an office as a home. One interesting thing that we have noticed is a lot of the products have now been inspired by residential design. And I think that's a little bit interesting. And then also in terms of tools, one thing is really having the right tools at the right scale. So, for example, a lot of people who live, especially in Tokyo, like I do, live in these tiny, tiny shoebox apartments, right? And so, for example, if a company wants to give everyone ergonomic desks, that's a really great intention, but realistically, it probably won't even fit inside of a Japanese apartment. And so, that strategy would be less effective. And so, making sure that we have the right solutions at the right scale is what really can make the tools effective, right? I'll talk a little bit about mobility. For those maybe who have a little bit of background in urban planning, Japan cities are transit-oriented developments, and so people are very they rely a lot on public transportation, and the infrastructure is very, very well done here. But due to COVID, as you can imagine, commuters are really looking for alternative transportation for answers, and they're finding that they really don't want to commute as far to the center office, which oftentimes is more than 30 minutes on the train. And so they're looking at in between zones, right? They're like the space stations. And so when we're looking, I will mention in Japan after the initial lockdown, we actually did not have another lockdown. And so luckily, a lot of local businesses and cafes have been able to stay afloat, and people will still go to them. And so there's still the social distancing and sanitization going on, but definitely this is something that we will see rising here in Japan. And this is, what we're suggesting to our clients is this is a great time to actually start pilot testing. Because the things that you wanted to do, like the technology that you wanted to integrate, which was maybe too expensive to do in your headquarters, now you can do in if you rent a co-working space or satellite office. And so this is kind of some of the ideas that we're talking about, and as well as biking. And so since 2016, half of the Japanese population owns a bike, and I think there was a boom during COVID. I actually bought myself a electric assist bike, and so when we're talking to our clients, we're thinking about really encouraging companies to think about the end of trip experiences. So bike parking, showers, lockers, and a booking system, and these might be sort of um, very obvious in a way in some parts of the world, but they're definitely not top of the mind when you think of amenities here in Japan. And then finally, creating better habits, right? And so one of the things that we did notice is there's a lot of changes, right? We talk a little bit. Chiara was just talking about how fatigued she was after all of these virtual meetings, and so one of the things that we notice is really what we have to ask ourselves: what are the habits that we want to keep, and what are the habits that we want to curb? There's just two things that we notice in Japan over the summer. When we were in the lockdown, a ton of articles came out in Japan about fathers actually reporting a higher satisfaction in their parenting experience because they now have time to spend with their family. And so, it's a little bit too early, but I do think there will be some studies in the next few years that start to, see if this is correlated between working from home and different types of work styles with kind of effects on family dynamics and societal shifts in Japan. And so, something that is decided in a work has a huge impact on your lifestyle. And the other thing is, remember to recharge. We're really happy to see that a lot of companies are investing in technology and going digital, mostly out of necessity. But at the same time, we also have to remind, especially when we're doing kind of change management projects, that top leadership needs to send a message to tell employees that it's okay to take breaks, that it's okay to step away and not use technology for a while. And so that's some of the things that we've just been noticing. And in my last example, I'll kind of show how this is put into practice. This is the Gensler Tokyo office, or what it used to be. I think Ying, probably you actually saw this when you came to visit, and I'm excited to show you something a little bit different. But we did our own experiment, and what we did was we had a different vision, right? We really tried to do this whole purpose-driven workplace. And I actually led the change management, and our managing director, Sarah, had a very clear vision of we need to have innovation through integration. And what that means is we have 3 design studios here in Tokyo. And so from the business side, we have to actually start pushing more cross-studio projects and cross-studio collaborations. But on the design side, we also need to change the space so that it would actually foster collaboration. And the type of behavior that we're trying to encourage is spontaneous interaction, because that is usually what leads to the best creative solutions. And so we actually did a renovation change management, and this is what the space actually looks like. And so you see on the left here, there's actually 3 different little pods that have sliding whiteboards. And it's kind of symbolic in a way where these 3 pods are now sliding, and we're kind of opening the barriers that were, existed between the studios to open up kind of communication. We also put in a cafe. So, people are going to naturally gravitate towards that. And very recently, due to COVID, and we've kind of hovered around 10 to 20% occupancy, we've also allocated space for bike parking. So we actually have done that in our actual office. So, while change is sometimes slow in Japan, we've actually seen a lot of things speed up this year. And so I personally really miss being in this office. And, we have one of the best views in Tokyo. And so I really, really hope to kind of actually go back. But definitely the consensus here is that we will be returning to a new normal. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kelly, for such a rich presentation and including the most up-to-date findings that you guys had. Talking about the view, you guys had the best view. Yeah, and also like the workplace solar system idea, put workplace right in the middle, and and I think what you talked about, including those questions about do we need the office? What does office become? These are like right on the spot because we're talking about future of work. So I hope we'll come back after the presentations by the other two panelists. We'll come back to have a bit more discussion on the things that you've already sort of pointed out for us, important topics to discuss, and then also it's actually interesting to see you guys. You're Gensler Tokyo. You're using your office space to experiment some of the new sort of directions. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
And so let me move on to introduce the second panelist of this roundtable on the future of work in Asia, Dr. Chaiwat Wiratanaphon. He came from an architecture background, and then he received his master's degree in facilities management at Herath University, Edinburgh, and building science at RPI, that's Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in New York State. In 2014, he finished his PhD from Delft University of Technology in the Netherlands with a thesis titled Performance Measurement of Workplace Change in two different culture contexts. Chaiwat, his research focuses on added value of facility management, workplace strategies, and the impact of workplace change on organization and on employees. He currently holds a position as an assistant professor of the architecture program at Thammasat University and the academic committee of Thailand Facility Management Association. Within the field of FM, he's engaged in research projects in cooperation with Thailand's industrial partners. So today, as you probably heard me sort of mentioned performance measurement multiple times. So part of his talk today will be focusing on that, but also giving us a bigger picture of workplace strategy in Thailand. Chaiwat, please.
Okay. Yeah, hi, I'm Chaiwat. I'm the instructor of the Faculty of Architecture at Thammasat University. And today I'd like to talk about my research. I try to share my screen, but it is not. Wait a minute.
See.
Let's see. Try to share my screen here.
Can you share?
Yeah.
Kiara, do you know if Chaiwat needs to be made a co-host or? Oh, yeah. Yes.
Oh,
yeah,
no,
it's
no,
working
okay.
now. Yes,
Great.
perfect.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. This is my research project together with my student. It is entitled The Design Planning Workspaces to Support Collaboration on the Remote Working. Here are some of the issues that we are searching and finding out regarding the remote working. It said that 17% of disadvantages on remote working is about collaboration. We see that there are some obstacles regarding the interaction between the co-workers, the involvement on tasks, the decision on tasks. And when we work out of the office from time to time, we feel isolations. And there are also some problem of the team working as well. And these are the objectives of the study. It is about to present guidelines on the workplace designs and management to support the collaboration on remote working. We set two research questions. First, this is about the impacts of the work environment, physical work environment, and organization policy on remote working employees. The second one is about how can the physical working environment and organization policies support the collaborations of the workers. These are the simple conceptual models that we set onset of the project. It have two different factors. First, it is about the organization policy. It is regarding the policy on the occupancy of the space, set the work days, work hour, and the other policy from the company. The second one is about the working environment. Physical one is related to the layout of the workspace, work setting, and the allocation of the space, and as well as the indoor environment such as the lighting, acoustic, visual, and ventilations. And those tools impact on the collaboration of the office workers in terms of how they can exchange the ideas, how can they promote the communications in the office, and how about the stimulation of the creativity of office workers. Some texts are Thai, I'm sorry about that, but there are some explanations on English as well. We set the case study. It is from the media company called The Standard. The Standard is the online publishing house in Thailand. And first of the field survey, we see that this company has the work process, as it is called, the group processes regarding the phase model, that they are work together for most of the time. And we see that it's quite interesting to do the research on this case study, because the right characteristics of the case that most of the employees work out of the office. So the research methods of this project is the interviews with the supervisor of the company, and we also have a field survey and a set of questionnaires. Here are some of the factors that we are trying to working out regarding the first questionnaire. There are two sets of questionnaire. This is the first one. We try to find the relationship between the left one, physical environment. It is about the workstation, furnishing, layouts of the workspace, the accessibility, and the other ICT facilities. That might have that might related to the collaborations of the employees in terms of how they can related to creativity of the employee, the communication, team efforts, diversity of the ideas, and privacy and mutual help. The second questionnaire is about try to link the physical environment to employee satisfaction. we try to combine these two data together. First is the relationship between physical environment and the collaborations of the employee. And we also think that it is a good approach to link the data of the first questionnaire to employee satisfaction, because one of the most important performance of the worker that mostly mentions is about employee satisfaction. And that is the first project. So I and my student move on to another project. This one, it is not related to the workplace, but I think it is quite interesting to share with you. It is about the space planning and management of the sport area of the 24-hour operations departments in the teaching hospitals in Thailand. The problem statement is about the expectation of the quality of the medical services in Thailand is high, but actually the physical work environment, especially in the sport area, is not really support the needs of the workers. So we said the research questions is it is about how can we provide the physical environments of the support area to promote efficiencies and the satisfactions of the medical staff in the hospital. The objective includes two points. First is to identify the factors that impact on the satisfactions of medical staff. Secondly, it is about to provide guidelines of the space planning and management of the area. There are case studies. We used 8 hospitals in Thailand as a case studies. The criteria for case selection is first, it's supposed to be a teaching hospitals. Secondly, when we talk about hospital, one of the criteria to measure the hospital is about the number of beds. So it is supposed to be over 300 beds, and it is supposed to accredited by HA or JCI. HA is hospital accreditation, and JCI is hospital accreditation as well. So it's supposed to be the last one is located in Bangkok and the metropolitan area. So it is around here. First, for the first way, we found 8 hospitals. Thammasat Hospital, which is located here in our university. The second one is Lersin. Third one, Washira, Radvithi, Ramathipati, Pramongkut, Chulalongkorn, and Sirat hospitals. The first phase of the project, we aim to conduct a research only from a small numbers of beds from number 1 to number 3, that is around 600 beds to 800 beds. And the second phase of the research, we expect to do the rest. Conceptual model is we expect that the physical environment will have an impact on the performance of the space users. In this case, it is about efficiency and user satisfaction. For efficiency, probably we are going to look into the density of the space, the frequency of the space usage of the personnel, and for the user satisfaction, we just distribute the 5 grade questionnaire, 5 scale, to ask them what they feel about their environment of the support area. And this is the second project. The last one that I would like to talk about today is to use this model of, it is called the Designing and Accommodation Strategy, the DASH framework. It is the model to evaluate the demand and supply from current to the future. And I use this model to assess the requirements of 4 universities in Pathum Thani, which is the province in Thailand. Here is the description of the model. The first case, it is our faculty of architecture of Thammasat University. It is in this area in Pathum Thani, and you see the description in Thai. It is about the vision and mission of the faculty, and also describe about the curriculum and number of students, and some description of the physical environment. Second case is the Faculty of Architecture as well at Rajamongkol University. The third one is Bangkok University, and the fourth one is Rangsit University. We use the same approach of the DASH framework to try to assess the match or mismatch of the space required and space provision of the faculty buildings at present and in the future from 4 universities: Bangkok, Rangsit, and the research methods. We use the field surveys of 4 universities, and we also interviews with the deans of the Faculty of Architecture, and we distribute the questionnaire. The field survey described about the physical environments of these 4 faculty buildings. And we also conduct a satisfaction survey as well. There's a different perceptions of the students regarding the questionnaire. And together with the satisfaction survey, we also ask them what aspect that they think it is most important. In this graph, they say that they are not they think about the space of the faculty that should be improved is the studio. And it is quite contrast to the finding that we found from the satisfaction survey. One of the issues is that there are the differences of the approach between the public and private university. There are public university in Thailand. 2 of them is Thammasat and Rajamongkol University. And the other 2 is private university, Rangsit and Bangkok University. The approach of the building are totally different. For the public university, they receive funding from the government, such as the tax. But the private university, they have to find funding themselves. So the ownership of the buildings are different. From perspectives of the private university, they say that they are not likely to call their own buildings, but it's supposed to share with the other faculty as well. On the other hand, some students from private university, the Faculty of Architecture, have to share their space with the other faculty. That totally aspects from the public university, like Thammasat and Rajamongkol, that they have their own buildings. And the policy of the use of the space also different as well. For Thammasat and Rajamongkol, which is public university, they have the regular timetable of and the duration that allows students to use the space. But from the private university, they just give the student more flexible times to use the faculty building. So that come up with the solution of the quite low satisfaction on the public university space comparing to the private ones. So that's all from my presentation. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Chaiwat. We have a question for you, which is about your first, the project that, the first project you presented. It's about the measure, how you measure the collaboration features, creativity, diversity of ideas, etc. Could you comment on this a little bit more? And that's the first questionnaire that you presented.
Well, actually, we try to use the questionnaire and ask the employee, ask them using the 5 Likert scale from 1 to 5, what do they think about the impacts of the particular environment to creativity, to communication, to team effort, and etc. And try to combine this data with the data from the interview. It means that I ask them myself, what do they feel? And another approach is to conduct the focus group to call out the representative of the workers and discuss them and link the data from the interview with the data from the questionnaire, and probably it may give some good cause-effect relationship.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think at this point, it's so clear that 90 minutes is not enough for such rich exchange of ideas. And I just want to very briefly comment. It's so obvious that we're doing very similar research, and this is actually exactly the value of the RGCS, a community like this, for us to exchange ideas. And we probably should do more frequent this kind of exchange, and then sort of selected topics. And then thank you, Chaiwat, for reminding us different. There are, besides, even though we focus on corporate office a lot, but there are many other different types of workplace. Like, you point out, obviously for us, the hospitals, healthcare environments, and also universities. Because on one hand, work is anywhere, everywhere. As Kelly said, workplace is the city, right? On the other hand, there are settings that has very specific requirements, needs that needs to be evaluated and need to be addressed. And also, I think university setting is increasingly become interesting because it share a lot with the modern or the current workplace in terms of the kind of activities that's taking place there, the learning, the mentoring, the collaborative work. So maybe, yeah, that could be a topic for next year, this learning environment setting. And before we move on, actually, Chaiwat, may I invite you to comment, just give it, because I saw your thesis was on performance evaluation in 2 different culture. So I would imagine one of them is Thailand, right? The other. So could you just very briefly comment on what was your finding? Like, what are something like significantly different in Thailand as compared to Netherlands or other parts of the developed world?
From Thailand, from my study, I found that there are also differences between, again, a public and private organization. Even in Thailand, when I asked the employees, what do they think about their work environment, they just give the average feedback. It means that they are not alike or unlike the environments. But when I asked the employee from Philips, the private company, lighting company, the feedback is quite opposite. They say that what they expect the workplace to be is that the workplace can enhance their productivity and help them to be more efficient to work. I think it is not about the culture that is most important thing from my studies, but it is the type of organizations, the expectation of the employee also align the corporate culture of that particular organizations. So the national culture in this study is not so obvious in comparison to organization culture.
Thank you so much for summarizing concisely your thesis work. But yeah, I mean, this is actually an interesting thing in terms of the cultural difference versus the organizational type difference. There's also I mean, if you have time to look at the chat, there's also inquiries about your publications. And also, Kelly, you probably already noticed there are a lot of questions in the chat box for you. So we'll come back to that. Let me now introduce our third panelist for this roundtable, Dr. Daibing Xie. He's the founding director of Geometric Consulting. He's a workplace researcher and consultant from China, and an anthropologist at heart with great interest in cultural phenomena at workplaces. Yet he's trained as an architect in his bachelor's and master's studies, and finished his PhD research at University College London, studying on the cross-culture comparison of workplace design and adaptive behaviors. Daibing has a successful professional career with an impressive client list, including BMW, Opel, and Alibaba. He was the director of workplace strategy at Savills in Beijing, as the founding director of his China-based consultancy, Geometrics. Daibing now continues to help local organizations shape their built assets to deliver corporate goals and to advise to great design firms like Zaha Hadid and Biggs regarding the local needs of for work-life qualities and business culture in some corporate headquarters projects. Daibing, now you have the floor. We're looking forward to your presentation.
Okay, thank you, Hin. And it's my great honor to be here. And just as mentioned by Ying, and I was the previous director of Starbucks in China, and I also served a lot of global companies like BMW and me. But after serving them for quite a long time, for a few years, and I found that there are a lot of Chinese local companies we can serve, and so I quit the Starbucks and start my own business. And so today, my presentation is mainly about my findings in Chinese local companies. So hope and can give you a very, very different perspective. Yeah. So I need to share my screen and yeah. So can everyone hear me, see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yes.
So my main finding about Chinese local companies, the keyword is they act globally and think locally. Yeah, this is quite different from what we talk about globalization. Usually people we think globally and act locally. So that's quite weird, but it's true in China. And in the past 2 years, I have attended many big projects, and this one is to headquarter office for Oppo, a Chinese, the second biggest mobile phone company in China. The first one is designed by Zaha Hadid, and the second is designed by Big. And you can see that the Chinese companies are very keen to invite top designers to design their headquarters, to design their office. And from this level, they try to keep heading it with the top companies in the world. So that's what they call it, to act globally, to be a global company. And they have many the same concerns with like what we talk about at workplace strategy. They care about the employees' experience and use workplace to attract talents and to enhance productivity and to increase the flexibility at workplace. And actually, flexibility is the major concern of most Chinese local companies because China is developed very, very fast. They usually set a very short-term goal for workplace design, and like 3 years or 5 years. And and their requirement is that, and to allow enough flexibility for future adaptation. And so that's the most important, nearly the most important concern in Chinese office design for most companies. And so in practice, actually, we use a lot of technology to analyze the working behavior and also doing change management to help them to restructure the team, and also to analyze the working behaviors. Also use some computer technologies to modeling people's behavior to predict and the results. Actually, Chinese business owners are quite happy to see this kind of data, and so to some extent we can say that they are data. This is a data-driven company. People are very easy to be persuaded by data to see the result. If they just we give with what we said, we just told them as a consultant, and we told them that we think this is right, and they say, do you have evidence? And so tell me the data, tell me the results. So they're quite keen to do some. They are quite keen to learn the result from this kind of technology here. But after this global level practice, and actually, we can see that in most practice, in people's mind, they are actually quite local. And this is I saw some very Chinese things here. And you can see that from this slide. This is the picture from Huawei, and you can see nearly all there is a bed in all workstations, and most of the time, and when we do consulting work in these companies, one question we asked by business owners is that, can you help me to remove this bed? And if we do the survey from the employees, they always say, no, that's impossible, because we have quite a long time for working hours. So, and maybe Kelly and you know this word 996. It means that working from 9 in the morning to 9 in the evening, and working 6 days per week. So this is a typical working time for Chinese high technology companies. And Jack Ma is the richest person in China. And he said people working 996 are very lucky, because many people do not have the opportunities. And we analyzed the reason for this kind of long working hours, and we found that. And a very interesting phenomenon is that the productivity in China is actually quite low. And if we calculate the data from the number from the GDP per person, we can find that the output per person in China is about $13 per hour, and this is quite low. So companies need to extend the working hour to get enough profit to support their business. And so this is a main challenge for us to introduce like some new workplace concept, like activity-based working, agile working. And for this company, it's nearly impossible. What they need is that to create a place like a farmland, and we call this IT workers as IT farmer, and to work there and try to keep them happy to stay in the company. So that's my major issues for Chinese IT company workplace design. And also this guy is the big boss of the Huawei. He even said, we should not take employee satisfaction and happiness as a management KPI, because what they want is to make people working harder. And so for Huawei, a key concern for workplace design is that to create an environment to push people move forward, to create an organizational culture, to keep people in line with the strategic goal with the big boss. And that is the main driver for Chinese workplace. And we also do a lot of research to analyze the the reaction from the employee side, and we found that actually we can see that in psychological part, and we can see we call it there's a adaptive model called of secondary control. That means that it's quite different from the world we always studied in Western world, and because in like European countries, people emphasize a lot to fulfill people's need, employees' need, to make people feel happy, and because it's very difficult to make people make a change, but in China, it's very easy for people to change themselves to fit the space, and we call it secondary control. And so the main task for organized design is to organize space in an understandable way, so that to tell people what they wish to do, and also in change management part is to conduct top-down communication to create an atmosphere for change. So this is quite different from what we talk about in the Western workplace strategy. So, and very Chinese. And also we found that in many Chinese companies, they would have a gym in their headquarters buildings or in their offices, but very few people use this kind of facilities, even like people, even in the after works. And we do some interviews and about that. People always say, and ask people, why don't you use these facilities? And people said, if we have time to use these facilities, the boss, we think we do not get enough job, and so they will allocate more job to us. So, and to some extent, this kind of facilities, amenities are recognized as a management tool to push people work hard. So it's quite funny in Chinese workplace. And in summary, we can see that in Chinese workplace, and there are many phenomena we think are irrational and unhealthy for the growth for people, but it's quite common, and people like it because it's effective to make people work hard. It's like Chinese food, and you can see that it have a lot of fat and health, but people like it. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is interesting that I know that you have done and then are doing a lot of interesting work, sort of filling the gap between this sort of great architecture, I mean, famous architects almost seeing China as a playground, and also corporate like those kind of a grand design, right? I mean, this iconic buildings, while you have this very particular group of users. On one hand, you feel you can teach them how to use a new space and open their mind to like a greater variety, right? But also you obviously see them coping, and sometimes in a pretty sort of uncomfortable way. And also you're trying to also use the design to introduce some different but maybe healthier behavior. So this is actually a very interesting field between you're working with different stakeholders, right? I mean, try to figure out what's the best balance, introducing new things, introducing the good stuff, but also pay enough attention to the need of the corporation, and also the status quo, the situation of the Chinese employees, right? And thank you so much. So we have about 30 minutes to have some discussion. What I'm thinking is because this is a very active group, I can see the panelists. If you see the amount of text in the chat box, so I'll try to sort of facilitate a short discussion among the panelists on a couple of questions which are on my list, but also were pointed out by the several researchers and practitioners on this who are listening to this roundtable. But hopefully, at the very end, we have just a few minutes to open it up for some comments. So looking at the questions, there are two things I think would be a good topic to discuss. One is this idea of new normal. So, what we've seen is since March, in many, almost all places in the world, we were pushed into it's like a forced experiment, right? Suddenly work has gone remote. Whether people are ready or not, this is what's happening. And even though in China, things are pretty much back to normal. But I know in Japan and in the US too, many parts of Europe, this remote work, working from home is pretty much still a dominant way of working, right? So let me ask the panelists. So do you see this sort of as a permanent change, or what do you see like out of this kind of experiment, a sudden change? Kelly has already talked about a few aspects, but can we start from Kelly to give us more how you see it, like the changes in the Japanese society, the opinion towards where to work, and their preference, and the also from the company, because I know you communicate with companies all the time from an organizational point of view. How do they see it, and the influence on future workplace strategy?
Yeah, so I think, I've been kind of scrolling the chat. You guys are very active, and I can kind of touch upon a couple of different things. But in terms of, there was a question, I think, about kind of how do we balance that social hub versus like the safety. And from a design perspective, what we really don't want to do is what we call like the theater of architecture, or the architecture of theater. I forgot what the term was, but it's to put in all these structures or design it in a way that makes you feel safe, but it actually doesn't do anything. And so what we actually are talking to, we actually had a joint event with Panasonic actually, and they released a ton of their latest technology and products that they're planning in the next 3 years, that are sort of smart HVAC systems and sensors and all these kinds of technology that can go into the workplace that are essentially invisible. And so they can really kind of track, what is the occupancy, what is the carbon dioxide, and they adjust all of the air and indoor air quality accordingly. So that's kind of some of the things that we're seeing in terms of the actual physical workplace. I think, just going around in my neighborhood now, and they've lifted restrictions on movie theaters, which I think is a little scary. You cannot control people. Like, people want to socialize, right? And I think after we come out of quarantine or lockdown, you probably will see an exponential level of socializing, and then it kind of comes down and levels out. And I think that's probably what's going to happen, realistically. So I think, from that point of view, I think it's sort of like, how can we make the technology so that we know that we cannot control human behavior, and if people are going to socialize, how can we best support that? So I think from that angle, there's definitely there is a balance, right? I think maybe I'll stop here for now, and then we can kind of get a little bit more of the other panelists' opinions.
Very quick follow-up. Do you see, companies sort of have this intention of dramatically reduce the footprint because of this opportunity of remote work?
That's a great question. I think it really depends. There's some companies that we worked with, Fujitsu in particular, they had a press release and they committed to downsizing 50%. I don't know what 50%, but there was also someone asked a question about workstations. So the idea of how much we reduce is going to have to go hand in hand with the mobility strategy. So it depends on how they can figure out a work from home policy and how they would be able to kind of measure people's performance that way. But you would imagine that if they would put in a mobility strategy, then your sharing ratio would be higher, and therefore you would need fewer workstations in the office. And so we've seen a range. Some people have committed to a number and some people really haven't. So it really depends. Yeah.
Thanks, Kelly.
Yeah.
May I invite Chaiwat and Dabing also to comment on this?
Yes.
The new normal, next normal, as one of the
Yeah.
main
I
audience
think
pointed out.
there's been change, and it's not gonna be the same. But there are changing demand of the office space, but it depends on the different factors as well. Depends on the culture of the company, the vision of the senior management. But I think what has been changed in Thailand is about the requirements of the office space, especially in the city center. And people, and it is also affects in terms of the real estate of Thailand as well. Normally, we are always sees the office worker, they are seeking the accommodation in the city center in order to go to work more easily, communications and transportations. But at this point, I see that they're decreasing in that demand of the real estate in and around Bangkok, and they move out of town. People can work from elsewhere using technologies. I don't think it's going to be the same, but again, we have to consider the other factors as well, such as, for example, the habits of the people. First, we see that the situations of the countries that wear masks and country that not wear masks, the increasing of the infected people is quite a difference. The habits of people and the policy from the government and the organization policy also have something to do with the situation. Yeah.
Thank you. I think you pointed out a very important question for us. That's what kind of office space that we need in the future. Because obviously the COVID situation let us see the possibility of not working in an office, working from home. But on the other hand, I guess as this sort of period goes on, many people really miss office, right? They miss the person-to-person interaction and want to go back. So this is actually just as remote work is the topic of, obviously the topic of year. This is a great opportunity for both research and practice to really think in a more sort of fundamental way what kind of changes where we're going into, and then how our research world and the workplace practice, design practice, and can support that change. So Dabing, may I invite you to comment on this new normal topic?
Yes, actually, we can see some new norms about work in Chinese companies. And the first things I think is the awareness of work-life qualities. I mean, the living quality, life quality at a workplace. And so more and more people realize that health is the most important thing, and work is for life. So in this year, in many design practice, in many projects, there are more people tend to put more concern on the indoor environment quality, and also the living facilities at workplace. And so basically, life is the most important things at workplace. And because in China we have a very long working hours, so people usually don't say work-life balance. We say work is life, life is work, and so life is about work and sleep. So the improvement of the environmental quality is the new norm. One new norm here, and the second is the digitalization of workplace. I mean, the virtual and physical means of virtual and physical workplace. here, and so many meetings are like conducted but in online. So many companies increase their investment on the IT facilities and also the video call systems. And yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Tavi. Actually, you're already going towards the direction. There are two topics that you mentioned is exactly what I wanted to for the panelists to give more comments. One is this. I think Kelly used the work-life integration term, and there's also a question I think from Claudia in the chat box about this. So, the term used to be work-life balance, and then work-life fusion, which is scary, and now work-life integration, and some people are even talking about work-life separation. So some of the surveys among especially young employees in corporation, they actually the something they're struggling is not being able to separate work and life during the remote working area, because they usually have a small studio, don't have a lot of space to move around. So on this, may I invite the panelists to comment on sort of based on where you are, the society that you are familiar with, how, because I think many of us take this experience-based or purpose-driven or human-centered view. So understanding of the society, their desire, right, their vision of future work life, lifestyle is very, very important for our workplace strategy generation. So could you share with us your observation of the society that you are familiar with? What's their sort of a desired future of a lifestyle that's relevant to workplace strategy?
Yeah, I can start. I think, for me, I was actually born and raised in Los Angeles. And so I moved across the world, and there was kind of a cultural immersion, and I'm still on the learning curve for Japanese culture. But one of the things that we talked about, in this part of the world, and especially for Japan, is this idea of both like the aging society and also the gender inequality in the workplace. And what I mean by this is the barriers of starting a family are extremely high in Japan. And you also see a lot of kind of similarities with Korea, because there's so much pressure in the workplace. People work really long hours. And the way that childcare is actually structured in Japan is very, very difficult for women to be able to have a dual kind of do childcare and be in the workplace. And this is also kind of exacerbated by kind of cultural pressures to have women become housewives. And so what you see is sort of a lot of leadership tends to be very male driven. And this definitely affects the way that we think about diversity and the types of spaces that we put in. And so, having that conversation in terms of workplace strategy at the very beginning of why do we need, for example, mothers' rooms or different types of facilities that maybe don't benefit everyone, but actually really matter to the people who need them. So that's, one thing that we have been sort of fighting for, and this is kind of more prevalent, I think, in domestic companies, but it has real implications for the actual space and the things that we actually implement.
Thanks.
Yeah. From my perspectives regarding the impacts of the situations in Thailand, when we talk about what the employees satisfied about the work, it is also they tend to think about the other thing apart from health and well-being. That is so-called the social work environment, such as the how much do they get paid, the expectation of employment, the career prospects, the supervision of the senior management, that kind of thing. That is quite I think it's probably 9 or 10 of the employees think about that aspect rather than think about hygiene in the workplace or the ventilation or the cleaning and that kind of thing. But when this crisis occur, the office manager, facility manager, they will have the duty to make the space to save for everyone, and it's going to change the perspectives of the one in charge. I think it is there. I mean, the health and well-being in the office is there a long time ago. We have business continuity planning, BCP plan. Also have the plan regarding the crisis like a pandemic as well. But when they occur, we are not aware that it is quite important, and it can spread out, and it can have a great impact on not only one person or one group of person, but in all over the societies. So it's gonna change the perspectives of the cultures, of the Thai cultures, to move from just aware of the thing that they think in terms of the social environment, but in terms of the workplace that promote health and can secure their work life in a longer term, so to speak. Yeah. I think that.
Thank you. And Dabing, do you want to share with us your observation of the Chinese workforce?
Okay. Yes, and during the COVID period, and about half years ago, everyone was locked in a building, locked at home, and people suddenly feel that, and social event is the big things for everyone. So it means that for workplace, everyone suddenly feel that they need a sense of belonging of the workplace and sense of belonging of the organization. So for many companies, and a big change is that, and people start to aware that create a social atmosphere, social environment is very important task for companies, and so and also hygiene factor, like what Chavad have said, is also big issues for most companies. Yeah.
This actually reminds me of some discussion that I had earlier with researchers in the this is actually a group in the U.S. Talking about this idea of amenity, because I know in the U.S., especially the tech companies, there's a list of amenities. It's like a checklist, especially on the West Coast, and then Gensler, actually, the San Francisco office has an extensive list of amenities they can sort of offer or introduce right into workplace. But once the work become remote, this idea of what kind of services, support that people needs, this is a very different list from like Michelin star chef or bike shop, and right, those kind of things that we can continue sort of to add to workplace to show care for the employees. Right now, certain things related to sort of support the social engagement or the sense of belonging to a group or organization. And then Kelly talked about the sort of the social economic aspect. I think the most, the group that feeling that the biggest challenge actually during this remote work phase is actually people or family with young kids. So suddenly before the work environment is similar, and then we have this nice push for it to become more and more healthier and healthier. But at home, people, because of the family structure, people might be facing very, very different work environments. And then companies have been sort of putting a lot of effort, I know that, to create the kind of a different type of amenity. These are services that to continue to support the employees, which is not about the physical environment, workplace, but as a very sort of important element. Can I since almost all of you sort of point out point out the topic of technology. Can I very quickly get your comments on this increased amount of technology in workplace? So we've seen more automated systems, the so-called smart building, right? Meaning for it to be more comfortable, to be tailored to individual or group needs. And we also see more sort of a diligently data collection about space use, which enable better space planning and management. And also we're talking about like augmented reality, even AI, right? Try to make the workplace more smart. And so can you comment on, like in your mind, like what are some of the technology to watch, like in the next wave of innovation, improvement, change in workplace? What are some of the things, or personally, like you yourself are interested in terms of the advanced or new technology that's being implemented in workplace?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I can kind of answer from two different angles. So one is kind of the tactical or the individual side. Ying, I think you hit the nail on the spot of having amenities in the workplace is like a checklist. And, I think, Daibin, we had the same idea of like a lot of these amenities are there just to look good. And we have to really make sure that they are the right amenities. What I did see was kind of an increase once we did remote towards like telehealth. And so having, kind of online health counselors and things like that, being able to subsidize, ergonomic furniture and internet, as well as sort of, actually some of the companies that we worked with, like you said, with young children, they are unable to have any acoustic privacy at all. Which, doesn't really, it's okay, I guess, if it's internal, but if you have a client meeting, which is very formal, you really don't want little kids running around in the background. So we have had companies get co-working memberships for these people to be able to kind of have calls in a more kind of secure and acoustically private location. In terms of kind of way out there, future technology, we are working on a confidential project. But the one thing that was discussed, we've been talking about this for a while, but I think it's actually going to happen, is this idea of a digital twin. And so having, when we're thinking about technology, it's not putting screens into the space, but this project that we're working on is essentially an experience center, but you have the physical experience center that you can walk in, but then the same thing recreated digitally. And so you can host online events and do live streaming, and it goes between the physical and virtual worlds. So that's something that we are working on. Don't tell anyone I said that, but that's something I think I would probably mention in the next, I think, 5 years or so.
From Thailand perspectives, we are at the moment are interested in the BIM model that are going to take part in the industry, building and construction industry. But I have some doubts about this model because not every company can afford the high price of the technologies. But as well, we have to consider about the whole stakeholders that involved in the projects. You may have the investor that are likely to use BIM. You may have the designer to design BIM, but the contractor, local contractors, and the other supplier, they are not very keen of this kind of technology. So it is quite the concern for the development of BIM in Thailand, but we still have some good improvement of the steps towards the bring out the technologies regarding the workplace. Okay.
Thank you. Debbie,
Yeah,
do you want to comment?
Yes. I just now Java mentioned the Beam, and also China has the same program about Beam. Yeah, well, we have Beam for designer and Beam for facility manager, but quite different. And it's very difficult to share the data between the two. That's the challenge for workplace management. And usually some like Huawei, they develop their own software or applications. And for example, we had an application called QWord, and they use that system to manage their workplace system in a global right. And they did not use the Beam system. So they are trying to make the technology as simple as possible. So that's one chain for asset management of companies. And also, another rush for like smart working facilities, technologies like a smart meeting system and virtual meeting system and in China. And I think that would be a future trend keep going in this country, yeah.
Thank you. We almost get to the 90-minute point. So it's pity that we won't be able to open up for a Q&A, but I do want to just read one comment from the chat box. That's from Marco Aurel, because I think it's pointed out sort of the direction that we won't have time to go to this time. So because he was mentioning this German railway system and about sort of a work on the move concept, because we talked about sort of distributed work and then bring some work actually closer, reduce the commute time, and then have alternate commute mode. But there's definitely research that's going on looking at if one has to commute, or there is actually a block of time that people are in the transportation system, and then that actually become another workplace, right? So not only cars, not only trains. I know there are also projects that's going on looking at cars as like a bigger car as a workplace for individuals and for a group. So now it is time for us to wrap up. As I said, obviously not enough time. There's this is a great panel, and thanks to all three panelists who made such good preparation and based on their rich practice and research experience. And also thanks to a very active audience. There's obviously a lot more to share, and then this is actually encourage us. There's a group, this is a group within the RGS CS of people who are practicing, doing research in Asia, and also scholars and practitioners who are interested in Asia in terms of workplace. So we're definitely gonna think about and work on more of these exchange settings for us to have more sharing of ideas, and then sort of together explore what's the next step, what's actually needs to be studied and experimented for the future of work. Chiara, do you want to make a closing comment?
Just to thank you all for being here and for really sharing with us your very different perspectives. It was a very nice step out of the European view, I think. So super interesting. We have a Discord channel that is active now. So I hope that you can join us there, and maybe we can continue this discussion, or at least keep in touch through that virtual tool. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Then it concludes the panel. As Chiara said, if we're keeping Kelly up, but it seems like we're getting him excited. Yeah, so the discussion can continue on the Discord.
Yeah, that will remain
active
in the next
platform.
days. So
Right.
there's no rush.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you all for
Thank you.
participating, and thank you,
Thank you.
Kiara, for
Thank
the
you.
opportunity for this panel.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Thank you.
Maybe see you.
Bye.
See you later.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Good night. Bye-bye.